Well, Henshaw here again, more of my YouTube current events videos. And this is a bit kind of an odd little video. It's something I haven't thought to mention overtly, but I'm well aware, and a lot of people are well aware of it too, especially down there at City Hall and in the office of the local dumbass. And the fact of the matter is, in most of the criminal cases they get, with the exception of the O.J. Simpson types, and it didn't help them to do it here now, did it? They do not want to go to trial. It's not accidental that 90% plus of these cases end up, even felony cases, end up with plea bargains. And there ain't much of a bargain at that when your own attorney sells you out in a court that doesn't have any jurisdiction. But the problem they have is, especially with us Joe six packs of the world, aka pro se litigants, you don't have a clue that we're appearing there in proprietary persona sui juris as a matter of right. But you go to a jury trial and you lose to Joe six pack. And if you get my document packet, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com, and you go in there with almost 600 jury instructions, and you know how to explain to the jury our side of the case, and we can prove they don't have jurisdiction, and they lose, not only is that bad, but it has the potential to make the local dumbass and the black robe bastard personally liable for damages to you, unlike this civil rights crap that's so rampant out there these days. It's absolutely worthless. But we make them personally liable and make them pay for it. And that's how you get these people in office now that are going to obey their oaths to be bound by this Constitution and the laws enacted in pursuance thereof. Potentially even worse, depending on the skewed perspective of these people that run for offices or get appointed to them, is you start losing cases to people like me, the Joe Six Packs of the world. Now your opponent takes you on the election and says, "You're not tough on crime at all. You can't beat some idiot off the street. What do we need you in there for? I'm going to get in there and do a much better job," which obviously won't be true. But, the voters these days, and I'm saying that did apply to me years ago, though I've never voted. But I was as ignorant coming out of high school as you can possibly imagine. And this is 50 odd years ago. They weren't teaching us anything there yet either. Damn, if I would have heard, for example, one of Andrew Johnson's veto speeches, like the Civil Rights Act of 1866 or the Reconstruction Act of 1867, if I'd heard anything like that, my life would have been different that long ago. And yet here we go, black is white in Langley, Virginia, with the C fucking IA. They consider Andrew Johnson to be our worst president, yet he's at the opposite end of the scale. And you study his presidency and do the groundwork that I have done and see he stood up for us and did the best he could to keep this Reconstruction crap from happening. So that's kind of a little aside here. But it doesn't detract from the fact that, they don't want to go to trial because there's so many things that can happen there, and you can actually educate a jury, crying out loud. And we have a right to do that and be heard and put our theory of the case on there. If we can't do that, there's no right to trial by jury, is it? You have one, but the problem we have, as I just said, even myself included years ago, was so damn ignorant had I been on a jury. And I've never even been called, by the way. Here I am, 72 years old, never even got a call for jury duty, especially out here in California. But they're so damn ignorant that they're going to take the law, and the judge are going to instruct them that you take the law as I give it to you, and they're going to be so damn ignorant, they're going to believe it. They don't know that in our jury trials and the way the Constitution was set up, the juries rule on the facts and the law. We have the power to do that. If we don't like it, we don't have to enforce it. And it doesn't matter if the legislative and executive branches were in effect perfectly in accordance with the Constitution. And trust me, that's exactly the opposite of the case. Even if they were, if you can't get juries to enforce it uniformly, it's not an enforceable law. That's the whole thing with trial by jury. So that said, you won't have a jury that has a clue. You might get one in there accidentally. By the way, a good film to look at on this is called The 12 Angry Men, made about 1960-61. It's a really good film on trial by jury. They don't discuss the issues that I do, but it's well worth taking a long look at that. So that said, they're the ones that don't want to go to trial, and we do. and we should make them pay for it. And speaking of paying for it, by the way, you might hear this comment from the office of your local dumbass. You know, if you go to a trial by jury, you're likely to get a longer prison term if we convict you. Whoa, hello. They're going to penalize you for invoking rights secured by the Constitution? What's the factual foundation and legal basis for that? And you can ask them straight out that question. What the hell are you talking about? I want to go to trial. I've got not only a defense, I got a defense. I'm going to blow you out because you don't have jurisdiction. And you're going to tell me I'm going to get a longer jail sentence for it? You can kiss my rosy red ass. It's not how it works here, and it never has been. We just have to get back the system we're supposed to have. Once we do that, and by the way, I'm not saying it was a perfect system, but even given all the things that weren't perfect about it, and yes, slavery is one of the issues, but if we didn't have those compromises back in the day, we don't have the Constitution and we don't have our nation and republic. And I'm tempted to say that we might be still subject to the City of London, which is actually true, not for that reason. But I think we got sold out with the Treaty of Paris in 1783, a video for another day. But we still are. And not only to the City of London, but Vatican City is in the mix, and the Bilderbergers and all these idiots, the one world people. They think they control this government, and especially with the damn United Nations. Don't get me started on that. But that's not how it's supposed to be. If enough of us stand up and say, wait just a minute here. And by the way, it doesn't take a lot, especially in a smaller state, because you get maybe 100 or 200 people in a state like Idaho flooding the Idaho Supreme Court with petitions. That's going to stop the whole docket until they start answering questions. And they have the sworn duty to do it. The U.S. Supreme Court says it's not me. We have a right to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. They've said that too. You'll learn a case called Cohen's v. Virginia. There's so much good quotes there, you can't stand it. The best decision they ever made. And you read that and understand that. And of course, I never ever heard about that case, even in my days in college. And I didn't take any law courses in college. I've not been to a law school, by the way, and I've not been brainwashed by one either. And I never heard of that case until I started to hunker down and do some serious studying all of decades ago. But I know it now, and the 90 farts know I know it now, and I use their words against them every time I can. That's what it is we need to do. So that said, just realize even though you're the accused and it looks like paperwork wise they've got the better of it, it's nothing close. Here again, black is white. If we assert our power and our rights and do it knowingly and intelligently, preferably without an attorney, as I said before, if we can get an attorney that will do what we want them to do, and this is a principal and agent relationship, and present our issues, fine. If they're not going to do that, get the hell out of the way. When that happens, as I've also said in earlier videos, the Supreme Court says they can't put you in jail, even though local law permits it. And since they can't define dollar, a very interesting issue for another video, and I know more about that money issue than probably anybody in the country right now. They can't define dollar. How can they prosecute you for a willful failure to pay a fine? And I've got my own proof here because 18 years ago I went through this exact thing and I got convicted, directed verdict to guilt. And then I got a fine for, I've forgotten how much it was now, 250, 300 of those undefined dollars. And I went with my sweetie to the clerk of court and offered to pay in silver coin. And she said, fine, but we can only accept them face value. I was prepped for it. I said, fine. Why don't you sign this document here about that? And we'll take it from there. And I took that right back and I sent it to the local dumbass at the time. And I said, well, you can't define dollar and you only accept silver at face value. And if I discharge the obligation with Federal Reserve notes, the Supreme Court says the debt is still due. That being the case, file your charges for a willful failure to pay a fine. So I believe it's 40508 of the penal code out here in California. Almost 20 years later, I'm still waiting. In the 5 decades I've been in this business, quote unquote, I haven't paid one damn red cent in fees, fines, you name it, nothing. They can't define it, and if they do that, they have to admit what I've already proven, that we're in court with federal, regional, martial law jurisdiction, that doesn't have jurisdiction, and all these official actors are personally liable. That's how good it is. So you get one of these damn attorneys that you're a defense attorney, you want to enter a plea bargain, and you can tell him to kiss your rosy bad ass too. You're not buying it because you're going to go there with the defense and one that he's required to put on, and you're going to beat the charges. Simple as that. To learn more, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. Subscribe, tell your friends, get the word out. We start working together here, Americans, Asians, and Africans across the board, and cut out all this divide and conquer crap they've been doing for at least 150 years. We get there a hell of a lot quicker, get our government back, and we can go from there. Thank you.